Hey guys, so we're going to start our statistics unit by talking about one and two variable data. If you did the grade 11 course, you would have already looked at a lot of the one variable data stuff and done a lot of work with that. But the first lesson, we're just going to look at what is the actual difference between one variable and two variable data. But mostly, once we get past this lesson, most of our stuff is going to have to do with two variable data. So just a couple of things. In statistics, a variable is an attribute that can be measured. So anything that can be measured is considered a variable. In the grade 11 course, you would have looked at one variable data, and one variable data sets give measures of one attribute. So it's only looking at one measurement. You can recognize one variable situations when you see the following things. So there could be a tally chart, frequency table, bar graphs, circle graphs, pictographs, and histograms. So pictographs and histograms. And histograms are, you looked at those pretty in more depth when you did the MBF3C or the grade 11 college course. One variable data can also be measured using mean, median, and mode. So I taught, so you would have been taught how to calculate those three things. Two variable data are sets that give measures of two attributes for each item in a sample. And you can recognize two variable data when you see ordered pairs, scatter plots, and we'll go over those later in this week, or two column table of values where it measures two different things. Now, an example of that might be somebody coming and measuring the size of your foot versus your size of your height. So they're looking, when we think about two variable data, what we're thinking about is, are we trying to compare two things against each other and see if they have a relationship? What we're going to do is we're going to do a couple examples. In the first example, we're going to identify situations involving one and two variable data. So we're going to state whether each situation involves one variable or two variable data and why. So let's look at the first example. A, NOAA researches annual hours of sunshine in Canadian cities. So if you look at this, there is really only one thing that can be measured, and that is annual hours of sunshine. So when I look at that and I see only one thing that can be measured, then I would think that this is one variable data. Nothing else can be measured in that situation. B, a study compared the length of time children spend playing video games and the time they spend reading. So in that case, there are two different things we're looking at: time of video games and then time versus reading. So this one is two variable data. Now to explain these, you can say measured, let's write that nicely, measured one variable, and you can even mention hours of sunshine. And in this case, you could say measured two variables and you might actually list them. Time playing video games. And then they also looked at the time reading. So that in that case, it had two different things. Let's move to the second page. And we'll look at this different example. Deciding which type of graph to draw. For class project, Dylan surveyed students about their part-time jobs. A says, what type of graph would be best to show how many hours each student worked on the weekend? Justify your choice. Does the graph display one variable, two variable data? So let's look at this one and we'll say, well, what is it actually measuring? So in this case, it's measuring hours worked on the weekend. I don't see in the sentence that there's anything else that he is actually measuring. So this would be a one variable data. And then we can look at our list of different ways that you can actually display one variable data. And you could say, you could do a bar graph or circle graph. Any of those choices you could choose. Which one would be the best? I would probably go with a bar graph or circle graph. If the hours have a very wide range, then I might consider a histogram. Again, it's kind of hard to kind of decide for sure until you actually see the data, but that is where I would go. So possibly a histogram, which would involve a tally chart and a frequency table. But again, we'd have to check to see. B, what type of graph would best show a possible relationship? Now notice in this one, it says possible relationship between weekday and weekend hours. So because we're looking at a possible relationship we got weekday hours and weekend hours. So we are actually measuring two different things. So I would say that this is two variable data. And the last thing, what kind of graph might we do? We'd probably do a scatter plot. Actually, we would do a scatter plot. A scatter plot only works with sets of two variable data. So for sure, we would do a scatter plot in this case. That's kind of similar to what the questions are going to ask you in today's lesson. So there is some practice stuff there. And again, our daily quiz. So make sure that you get to do that. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.